A wise man said, "What's the use of a house if you don't have a decent planet to put it on?" And there's only one way to make our planet decent again: renewable energy. That's today on Off the Grid. The earth is a mess. There's oil in the oceans, chemicals in the soil, and pollution in the sky. And there's a few polecats in Washington that want to keep it that way. Today, I take on the war on renewable energy. Let's go to my vigilant producer, Alex Logan, in the Off the Grid Command Center. Alex, what about renewable energy?
All right, well, in April, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change delivered stark news about the world's efforts to go green. We aren't doing enough. Greenhouse emissions are rising faster than ever, but there's still hope to reverse our negative impact, and the time is right now. The panel's co-chair, Ottmar Edenhofer, warns we cannot afford to lose another decade. If we lose another decade, it becomes extremely costly to achieve climate stabilization. How do you take this news, Governor? Do you think we're not doing enough?
Oh, absolutely, we're not doing enough. You know, all we're looking at doing is building the Keystone Pipeline right now, which means more of that type of fuel being used. If we don't wean ourselves from burnable fuel and keep pumping this as well as the natural gas and the methane into our atmosphere, it's not a good thing for the people that come after us. I might survive, but I'm not so sure about you, Alex.
Well, here's the good news. Back in 2011, Mark C. Jacobson and Mark A. DeLucci determined that we could power the world by alternative energy in the next 20 to 40 years, and that's with our current technology. Using a combination of 90% wind, water, and solar energy to generate power, plus 4% geothermal, 4% hydroelectric, and 2% wave and tidal power, we could rely on entirely renewable electricity sources to power the entire Earth. Jacobson's a Stanford researcher. He said there are no technological or economic barriers to converting the entire world to clean, renewable energy sources. It's a question of whether we have the societal and political will. It would require an effort comparable to the Apollo moon project or constructing the interstate highway system. So how do we get people on board? Kennedy rallied America behind NASA. Should we rely on Obama to get people behind the green revolution?
The key to this is the economy. How are we going to wean off oil when oil is so powerful and makes the people so much money that they control our politicians? See, that's the problem you got with alternative energy. It doesn't make as much money as the energy you got now. And money talks, bullshit walks.
Well, now let's look at who is holding us back from becoming a green planet. Despite the best efforts of Americans for Prosperity, Florida Governor Rick Scott allowed a law to pass that ensures tax incentives for alternative energies. Americans for Prosperity lobbied hard against House Bill 7117 that sets aside $16 million for tax incentives to solar, wind, and biofuel companies, because the Grassroots Political Action Committee was founded by the Koch brothers, owners of Koch Industries, an oil services company. Does it surprise you to find the Koch brothers are behind something this petty?
Not at all, because that's how you control our politicians. Money. The system's completely bribery. The Koch brothers have more money than the alternative energy people, so the Koch brothers will prevail with the Democrats and Republicans. They got the green, Daddy. We ain't talking about grass green, we're talking about money green.
Well, the Hungry Koch bros made $12 billion in investments in 2012, chiefly from their oil holdings, which breaks down to $6 million per working hour, or $1,666 per second. So it seems they'll survive despite this missed opportunity in Florida. So when will it be enough for the Kochs? Am I the only one who thinks there's some kind of comic book supervillains at this point?
Their business is oil. They're going to do everything to promote that business. If their business was wind energy or solar, we'd be in like Flint with their money. But the problem is they didn't make their money from wind energy and solar. They made it from oil. Alternative energy's great. I'm for it all the way, but don't hold your breath. The Koch brothers will prevail with the Democrats and Republicans.
Well, here's another Koch brothers story. Meanwhile, in Tennessee, the Koch brothers almost made a bus rapid transit project illegal, but state lawmakers reached a deal to proceed with the AMP bus project. The $174 million bus rapid transit project was nearly thwarted after the state Senate overwhelmingly voted in favor of Senate Bill 2243 to forbid constructing, maintaining, or operating any bus rapid transit system in Nashville. Again, Americans for Prosperity were behind the fight against anything green or clean, as they argued that the AMP bus project would cause more traffic congestion and cut down on parking spots, despite BRT systems proving tremendously successful in Brazil, China, South Korea, and New York.
I support mass transit, and I will subsidize mass transit. Why? Because that takes people off the road. The more people that are off the road, that gives me more room to drive my Porsche. There's the attitude to take for all you car drivers. Support mass transit. You get more room to drive.
Why would Americans for Prosperity, a nationwide organization, fight legislation like this at a state level, or even at a city level?
Because it's done at the grassroots. That's how to kill anything. The best laws and the best things that happen in our country happen and start at the grassroots level. Put it out at the grassroots level, rest assured, it ain't gonna show up at the Washington level.
Well, you're exactly right, and the Tennessee director of Americans for Prosperity, Andrew Ogles, he'd agree. With supermajorities in both houses, Tennessee is a great state to pass model legislation that can be leveraged in other states. Or in simple terms, lead by bad example.
Remember, Tennessee's the first state that okayed the TSA Viper teams on the highway, where they can drive around now and arbitrarily pull you over and search your car for no particular reason. That's America today, home of the brave, land of the free. Search me whether I like it or not.
Oklahomans weren't so lucky, as their state legislators just made solar energy more expensive on purpose. After no debate in the House, Senate Bill 1456 passed 83-5 and will add surcharges to the power bills of residents who install their own rooftop solar panels or small wind turbines. The exact fees have not yet been determined, but residents are expecting the worst. Stacey Gary, owner of Sun City, Oklahoma, told Think Progress, "We knew nothing about it, and all of a sudden it's attached to some other bill. It just appeared out of nowhere."
So people want to go solar, and now you bring up a tax? Oklahoma, you should hang your head in shame.
Well, the spokesperson for Oklahoma Gas and Electric Company defended the bill. "We're not anti-solar or anti-wind or trying to slow this down. We're just trying to keep it fair." Is this really about keeping it fair? How would you feel if somebody taxed your solar panels?
That's hardly fair. It simply means that you don't have to pay an electric bill anymore. I know that well, having living off the grid. Now they're going to make you do it because they're going to tax you for it. And it's old pathetic American citizens that sit back and accept this crap. How dare us want alternative energy? Imagine that.
But there is at least one government institution in the Green Revolution's corner, the U.S. Navy, who have developed a process to turn seawater into fuel. What Vice Admiral Philip Cullum called a huge milestone for the Navy could revolutionize their modern fleet, as they could potentially no longer rely on oil. The experts at the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory have already flown a model airplane with the fuel produced from seawater, but Dr. Heather Willauer is taking things one step at a time. "We've demonstrated the feasibility. We want to improve the process efficiency." So does it make you a proud veteran that the Navy is moving this technology forward?
It does, but I want to know what's going to happen to the Navy when the oil companies find out about them.
Yeah, that's my question. Now, how will the Koch brothers screw this one up too?
Yeah, you know, what are they going to do with the politicians to stop the Navy from doing that? Because imagine that. If the Navy discovers how to power their ships with salt water, wouldn't that transfer to cars and other forms of transportation? And what would that do to the Koch brothers and their oil industry if we can start powering things with salt water from the ocean? For the sake of the Koch brothers, we better stop that shit as soon as possible.
Well, now we're switching topics for a moment. Let's talk about that Keystone XL pipeline. Politico.com reports that the Obama administration says it is indefinitely extending its long-awaited review of the Keystone XL pipeline, which could easily push the president's final decision past the midterm November elections. The review is looking at whether the 1,700-mile pipeline, which would move crude oil from Alberta, Canada to the Gulf Coast, is in the national interest. What do you make of the Keystone pipeline, Governor?
Well, it's in the Koch brothers' interest. So I think people need to wake up. They're being told Obama and all them are stopping these jobs. Oh yeah, there'll be initial jobs, but I got news for people. That oil is not for United States consumption. They're gonna be shipping it all to China. This is all about the oil companies making profit. It's not about the United States becoming oil independent, like John Boehner and them would want you to believe that shit. Just remember to wave to it as the oil heads to China.
Well, I'm glad you brought up John Boehner, because alluding to the crisis in Ukraine, House Speaker John Boehner said that With tens of thousands of American jobs on the line and our allies in Eastern Europe looking for energy leadership from America, it's clear there is little this administration isn't willing to sacrifice for politics. If there are economic benefits to be reaped from it, should we not support it?
Sure, I suppose we should, but how much of that economics from this pipeline will go to middle America? The only economic boost it's going to be is to the Koch brothers and the rich people who pay for John Boehner to be the Speaker of the House. And that's it for the war on renewable energy. Now it's up to you, my vigilant viewers, to keep the conversation going online, tweet, message me, and call me at the sites below. And as always, stay vigilant, stay green, and use some more oil. By the way, I'm being sarcastic there in case anyone didn't get it.
Decade. If we lose another decade, it becomes extremely costly to achieve climate stabilization. How do you take this news, Governor? Do you think we're not doing enough?
Oh, absolutely, we're not doing enough. You know, all we're looking at doing is building the Keystone Pipeline right now, which means more of that type of fuel being used. If we don't wean ourselves from burnable energy.
All right, well, in April, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change delivered stark news about the world's efforts to go green. We aren't doing enough. Greenhouse emissions are rising faster than ever, but there's still hope to reverse our negative impact, and the time is right now. The panel's co-chair, Ottmar Edenhofer, warns we cannot afford to lose another.
The earth is a mess. There's oil in the oceans, chemicals in the soil, and pollution in the sky. And there's a few polecats in Washington that want to keep it that way. Today, I take on the war on renewable energy. Let's go to my vigilant producer, Alex Logan, in the Off the Grid Command Center. Alex, what about renewable fuel? And keep pumping this as well as the natural gas and the methane into our atmosphere. It's not a good thing for the people that come after us. I might survive, but I'm not so sure about you, Alex.
Well, here's the good news. Back in 2011, Mark C. Jacobson and Mark A. DeLucci determined that we could power the world by alternative.
A wise man said, what's the use of a house if you don't have a decent planet to put it on? And there's only one way to make our planet decent again: renewable energy. That's today on Off the Grid.